session, and I would be there with you. I would be there with you for the next about 40, 45 minutes. I just saw the time, it was mentioned 3 to 4:15. I believe for an online session, that would be too much for all of you. So let's be focused over the next about 40 odd minutes. That should serve the purpose. 40 minutes, I have very crisp, clear 3 points which I really want to share with you. Now, let me tell you, which I obviously tell all my audiences before the session. You know, anything which I share today would be known to you. तो अब आप में से बहुत लोग सोच रहे होंगे करने क्या है फिर. So let me repeat. Everything that I share today with you would be known to you. So what are you here for? So I can see about 30 odd names. So any quick comments as we start this session? Yeah. So you would be knowing everything which I would be sharing. What are you here for? So any quick comments, any observations? Next 30 seconds before I begin. So I'm just waiting for a few people to get in the group. So what are we here for? So it's a pretty open topic, yeah? A better you, the better you. Let me just put it up on the screen let me just put it up on the screen and give you some time to think about it. Yeah. So the better you, some time to think about it. What are we going to do over the next? I will share with you the agenda over the next 35, 40 minutes, but I told you, okay, let me just play a small audio for you. And this is what defines what we're going to do. Can you hear the sound? Can you just give me a...
Yes, we can hear it.
Yeah, this is what we really want in our life. This is what we aspire for. The next 30 seconds, just setting the tone for the next 35, 40 minutes. This is why we want to be better, yeah? This is what we want to achieve if we really become a better person than what we are today. Okay, so the better you. I still didn't get any comments. Let's move on. So the better you. I would be talking about 3 things today. Need to be better than last year. Okay, I had somebody at least responding. Need to be better than what we were last year. Perfect. Thank you. Let me just see any other messages. Okay, in terms of financials. Right. So I would be talking about 3 things today. So Mayura, better than yesterday. Okay, perfect. Thank you. So I will be talking about 3 things today. And the first one is what you see on the screen. Again, something that you've read about so many times, yeah. But the 3 things that I speak about, purpose, point number 2 and point number 3, is what I'm trying to define in this. How do you really become the better you? So starting off with purpose, and I actually was reminded of a framework which I came across in one of the books by a gentleman named Chandramouli Venkatesan. And he calls it Motivation at Work, but a very simple framework. And he talks about 3 different aspects when we talk about doing something in our lives, So first big thing is to do with achievement. These are certain phases of our life that we go through. You really can't be talking about purpose, the very first thing in your life, yeah? We go through these 3 steps. The first step being achievement. So when we talk about being a better person or being a better self, the first ladder that we really need to cross is in terms of achieving some things in our life. Achieving, then getting on to mastery, and then ultimately talking about purpose. So I would be talking some things. Let me pick up an example and speak about what achievement could be, what mastery could be, and what purpose could be. Yeah. But ultimately, we need to be very clear about whatever we do. Are we clear about the purpose? Why are we doing that? Now, most of you would have had a friend who participated in the Tata Mumbai Marathon last weekend. Any of you? Let me see. Any of you, or any of you, as of now, who are attending this session, any of you participated in the Mumbai Marathon, which happened the last weekend, or any of your friends who participated, or any person you know of who is a marathoner who really runs? I'm just trying to clarify these 3 points in terms of achievement, mastery, and then in terms of purpose. Ultimately, getting onto the point wherein we really need to be clear about the purpose. Why are we doing an activity? So, any of you who's an avid runner, any of your friends who participated in the marathon, anyone? Okay. So let's talk about something known as an achievement. Oh, perfect. So, are you a runner or any of your friends who participated? So, Yasir, a friend. Perfect, perfect, Yasir. So let's talk about achievement and mastery, and then come down to the last thing in terms of purpose. So for a person who's really attempting a marathon for the first time, what really would be a big achievement for him? So for a person who's attempting or who's participating in a marathon for the first time, what really would be a big achievement for that person? See, the way I actually created this small session for all of you is to be able to have a small interaction with some of you. Though in some points I'll really run through, but to start off, what really would be a big achievement for that person? Now, if only Yasir has a friend who's run a marathon, and not many people may be able to appreciate, but I'm sure you all can take a guess. What would be a good achievement for that person? For somebody who's really running a marathon for the first time? And well, I would say being able to complete that marathon would be a fantastic achievement in itself, the first time. Yeah, so the first time somebody does something, you're not really focusing on purpose per se for the first time. You're more concerned about the achievement, and that's how it should be. So, achievement. Am I going to complete the marathon? Yes, that would be a fantastic achievement. As you start doing that thing over a period of time, as you start attempting that endeavor again, the next time, you start moving from achievement to something known as a mastery. Yeah, achievement, possibly, yeah, completing the marathon. Second time, you're talking about, let's say, doing it in a particular time, but then you're talking about mastery. What really is mastery? So when you were in the first phase in terms of achievement, you were focused upon certain end goals. But in the process of achieving those end goals, you may have had to face cramps. You may have run out of fuel in terms of stamina. You may really have had a bad time in terms of your recovery after the marathon, all those things. The next stage is the mastery stage. Now, as you keep practicing more, then you're not really concerned about just finishing the marathon. That's a given for you. Then you're looking at your post marathon recovery. Can you really be on your feet again the very next day once you run a marathon? Yeah. Can you really do it without facing any cramps? So you're talking about mastery, which is the next stage of your life. So again, you do something the first time, more concerned about achievement. You keep doing it again, you're now getting into the mastery zone. But ultimately comes this zone of purpose. Why is it that you're running that marathon? The purpose is all about answering that why. And to answer this for you, let me pick up the story of another gentleman. I'm putting up somebody's photograph on the screen. None of you would be knowing this gentleman if you've not read any of his books. I came across one of his books only a couple of weeks back. And he's a Japanese runner. And he's also a very accomplished author. So any of you who are avid readers, any of you want to take a guess on who this person could be? So a very unique combination. He's an avid runner and a very accomplished author. I mean, he's probably sold lakhs and millions of books across the world. So he's a Japanese. And the reason I'm talking about this person is just to clarify in terms of, we already spoken about achievement and mastery, but we're talking about purpose. And continuing with the same example of running a marathon, what really could be the purpose? So this gentleman is Haruki Murakami, a Japanese, and he's written many books, I believe dozens of books. And one of his famous books is What I Talk When I Talk About Running. And in that book, he talks about the pain that people go through when they run a marathon. He ran a marathon for the first time when he was in 30s. And obviously, he also went through the same stage. Yeah, initially wanted to complete that marathon, then mastery stage. The purpose, why is he really running a marathon again? The purpose, why? So over a period of time, he realized that writing was taking a toll on his health. Some of you may just be facing a small noise. There's some construction activity going in the dark, right? So please excuse me for that. So he talks about when he actually started running a marathon initially in terms of, he was in his mid to late 30s when he ran the first marathon. But he says as he was writing a lot, it was taking a toll on his health. For those of you who've known writers, they tend to sit in isolation and be working long hours, sitting at the table for long hours. So he was looking at his first purpose. And purpose was to lead a healthy life. And he found a rhythm in terms of running. And he actually draws out an analogy. He says there's so much common between writing and running. So the very first purpose was he wanted to stay fit while he continued his passion for writing. Yeah. And then as he kept running, he had a different purpose. He wanted really to highlight the positive effects of running on somebody's health. He really wanted to inspire people to get into a good shape. So that purpose or the goalpost kept shifting, but he always had a clear purpose in his mind as to why he was running. And if you've not read any of his books, you should really pick up one of those. And I only picked up one book, What I Talk When I Talk About Running, and you will get a better glimpse into what really a purpose is. So this was just in continuation to the marathon, which happened a couple of days back. But if I look back at my life, if all of you look back at whatever you're doing in your life, I worked in the corporate for about 20 odd years. And then I had a question. I had a question as to what is it that I really want to do? And I came up with the answer. I really want to add value to the lives of lakhs and millions of people across the globe. Now, I realized I couldn't have reached out to that large canvas. I couldn't have really drawn on that large canvas if I was continuing in my job. And that's how I actually chalked out a different path for myself. So the very moment actually when I started, I was very clear on why I was pursuing this. Obviously some of these elements in terms of the materialistic fulfillment, emotional fulfillment, all those things definitely go along as you move on to pursue some of your passions. I'll tell you very clear as to why I was getting into this training industry. Yeah, so purpose. Now, whether you're in a job as of now, whether you are running a separate enterprise, but each day as you get up, are you really clear as to why are you doing that? Now, if you're just starting out as somebody who's a fresher from your college, this could be a very big question. I'm not asking you to answer this question right away. Yeah, but you obviously need to graduate from that achievement to mastery to that purpose. Yeah, it'll take some time, but ultimately you need to answer that question on purpose. So this was the first point I wanted to discuss with you in terms of becoming a better you. And that's in terms of you clarifying your purpose in life. Second thing, which I want to share with you is in terms of, we're talking about becoming a better you. And it's something to do with your habits. Now, all of you definitely heard about this book known as Atomic Habits. I am not going to talk about anything from Atomic Habits. It's a fantastic book and all of you should be reading that book, but nothing from that book per se. I picked up some things which actually go unnoticed, or with some things that we really don't care about as we move on in our lives. But the right habits, if you really want to achieve your purpose, you ought to have some right habits with you. And I'm going to talk about something very basic. Something very basic, which is not really glamorous, but most of you may not be doing it the right way. And first, something to do with exercise. I really don't know the age profile of the people who are listening to this session as of now. But as I come across so many different people today, this is one area which people have started talking about. When I was in my early 20s, not many people spoke about this term called exercise. Yeah. We've had enough when we were in school or college, and now we're in corporate. It's time to work 5 or 6 days a week and time to relax for whatever time you have left on a Saturday or a Sunday. That was how we really spent our early years in the corporate. But slowly, with awareness, people are at least talking about exercising, people are talking about cycling, walking, running, trekking, all those things. Yeah. It's really become the talk of the town, but it just may be the talk of the town. But the question is, are you really spending some time? Are you really taking good care of your body? You only have one body to take care of. So are you developing some right habits? Why you should be doing this? Because you have a purpose in your life. And if you ought to achieve your purpose, you ought to take care of your body, as simple as that. No complications. Nothing glamorous about it, but very simple. Yeah. So first thing is about exercising. Now, I'm not here to recommend the kind of exercise you should be doing. It's up to you. But any exercise should be at least done for about 20, 25 minutes a day, at least 5 times a week. And that helps you get into a routine. And that's what we should be doing. So if you're good at aerobics, please do that. If you're fond of yoga, please do that. You're fond of weights, please do that. You're fond of walking the garden, please do that. Whatever you're comfortable with, but get into a routine. Routine is more important. The first thing in terms of right habits is exercising. Next is food. 30 seconds only on food. We all eat right. We're all eating adequate quantities of food and not trying to portray the kind of food we're eating, but this is actually the photograph that you can see on the screen is a pretty balanced and a healthy diet. So we're all eating food in the desired quantity. I'm sure none of you in the audience as of now is eating less than what you really wanted to. All of us are eating in adequate quantities. But the only problem comes up is we possibly not eating at the right time and in the right quantities at that particular time. We possibly overstuffing ourselves at a point in time and depriving our bodies at certain points in time. Net, in 30 seconds, I just want to convey, again, we ought to take care of our body. Beyond exercise, food is something which will really help keep the body nourished. Why do we need to do this? We have a purpose in life. To achieve that purpose, we ought to have a fit body. Last, something to do with in terms of your rest. And not just rest. I'm going to talk about two aspects in this. One is in terms of rest and one is in terms of breaks. See, in today's world, we're getting so obsessed with something known as productivity. Let me just put it up, close this for a moment. So in today's world, we're getting so very obsessed with something called productivity. I'm sure you have so much of content flowing around on LinkedIn or internet. People really want you to be taking care of every single minute, or to be really careful about how you spend every minute. Every minute, samay bahut qeemati hai. You really should be concerned about how you're spending your time, to the extent of possibly making yourself feel guilty if you're trying to relax once in a while. So I'm going to be talking about two aspects. When I talk about right habits, one is in terms of your rest, second in terms of your breaks. Rest, in terms of how you're really giving your body that rest, which it needs at night. I know of many people, and even you may be knowing of some of them, who actually keep their data on for 24 hours in a day. And which typically, most of our smartphones, how are smartphones designed, or how is this data network designed? The smartphone obviously wants to grab your attention every single moment. That's the reason most of these apps are designed in terms of sending you the notifications And as soon as the notification hits the screen lights up. Even if it was on a dim setting, it suddenly lights up to tell you that, yes, I need your attention. That's how most of these apps are designed. So if you're really wanting to sleep peacefully, you have no choice but to actually put the data off at least when you're getting off to sleep. Yeah, it's all about you being able to take that proper rest. So I know of people who actually find it difficult to get that sound sleep because even when they're in the process of getting that sleep, some kind of notifications keep hitting their phone, and that's pretty disturbing. That's something in terms of your adequate rest during the night time. But the second point, which I want to talk about in terms of right habit, is in terms of taking breaks. Are we really taking those adequate breaks during the day? So most of you heard about those Pomodoro techniques, and all of you learned people on this in this session. You all know about some of these terminologies, but more than knowing about these terminologies, are you really taking that adequate break? Now, what really is the right time frame for you to be taking a break? It really varies from person to person. Somebody may want a break every 30 minutes. Somebody may do without a break for about 1.5 hours. It's very similar to if you go back to the time when you were preparing for your examinations. And some of you still remember the time when you appeared for your exams during college? I still do so. I stayed in a hostel, both during my engineering days and during my IIM days. And I still remember I could not sit through while preparing for an exam for more than 45 minutes at a stretch. While I knew of some friends who could actually sit down at a stretch for about 2.5 hours without they getting disturbed. So, we're all different. So I'm not really putting a template to what you should be doing in terms of that adequate rest, but you know it when you need that rest. So it's all about knowing when you need that rest because your mind is really shut off after that time. So you really need to give your mind some break, let it relax, and then come back invigorated and get on to your work. So just want to touch upon the aspects of the right habit, small aspects in terms of whether you're spending some time to exercise. It's after all a machine, a very sophisticated machine. It needs some exercise. Are you just intaking the right food at the right time during the day? And lastly, in terms of that rest and breaks, are you really giving your body the well-deserved rest which it needs at night? And are you really taking those adequate breaks during the day for you to be more refreshed in your work? So to be a better you, I wanted to share 3 things with you. We're already done with 2. I started off with you having a clear purpose. And to achieve that purpose, you obviously ought to graduate from starting from achievement to mastery and then coming out of purpose. And second was in terms of you taking adequate care of your body in terms of developing some right habits. So we're done with 2 things. And let me come on to the last one, which is in terms of continuous improvement. Continuous improvement. I just have one more slide for you. So let me just put it up after a while. Yeah. The third thing, which I wanted to share with you in terms of you becoming a better you, is in terms of continuous improvement. Now, when I talk about continuous improvement, there could be so many different factors that you could be looking at improving. So many. I mean, I actually had to narrow down on 2 or 3 because even I could have spoken about so many different aspects which we ought to be improving to become a better version of ourselves. But I just picked up the top 3 which I could think of, the top 3 which came to my mind. And the first one, just picked up. So continuous improvement. So yeah, see it. And Mayura, I just had 2 people responding, and both of you still there. I'm just taking with both of them because I didn't see anybody else's message. Yasir and Mayura, are you still there? Continuous improvement. I'm just checking my other screen wherein I can see the messages. Yes, yes. So Yasir says yes. I got one reply. Okay. So I picked up a couple of points in terms of continuous improvement. What is it that you should be focusing upon when I talk about continuous improvement? The first thing which I could think about is in terms of your attitude. Now, attitude. We tend to speak about this every single day of our lives. So, without getting into details, if I were just to touch upon this topic for about a minute, what is it that you could be doing to improve your attitude? So, attitude is nothing but the response, your response to a given situation. We all know that people respond differently, even if placed in the same situation. Yeah, all of us may not respond the same way in the same situation. So, attitude is primarily a response to a situation. What can be done for us to have a better attitude? What can be done? So, one single thing, the single biggest thing which I could think of in terms of we improving our attitude because we want to be a better version of ourselves is to improve our association. Improve our association. What does that mean? Well, you know that association is nothing but the people you associate. So, are you associating with the right people? Or let's frame it in a better way. You definitely have good friends, you're associating with the right people, but who else do I need to associate with for me to develop a better attitude? And that association is not just a small coterie of friends that you have. It's not just the office colleagues that you know of. And the association is also in terms of the content that you follow. Yeah, that also, that's how, what really is an association? You start thinking with the people you move around with. And even to the extent of when you're following somebody's content, yeah, you start thinking like the person. So who else? And this is how I reframed my question. You have good friends, you have good colleagues, but who else do I need to associate with for me to develop a better attitude? So who else do I need to follow? Whose content should I be reading so that I develop a great attitude? Yeah, this is what you should be looking at when we're talking about. Sorry, some message for. Okay. So this is what you should be looking at in terms of improving your attitude. Second thing, which I could think about in terms of I becoming a better version of myself is in terms of my relationships with people. Am I really, really looking at building strong relationships with people? Especially with our digital world, and especially with, I'm sure most of you on this in this session would be connecting to so many different people over these social media platforms every single day of your lives. I do so. I interact with a lot of people on Facebook. Yeah, I'm still the old person, old school types. When I say old school, I'm still the Facebook generation. So I interact with a lot of people on Facebook and on LinkedIn every single day of my life. I keep posting, I keep interacting with people. But is that really something which helps me develop a relationship? Not really, because I may not be knowing many of those people. And many of those interactions may be very short lived. I may not get a chance to interact with the same person again. I am not too sure. So when I talk about building relationships, I'm talking about graduating to the next level. So you come across some people, then you start interacting with a few people on a regular basis. And that's when you start developing a relationship with that person. So when I talk about becoming a better me, I'm talking about developing some better relationships. When we talk about relationship, we're talking about a give and take. We're talking about, again, very similar to the association part, which I spoke to you in terms of building a great attitude. Very similar. So as you start getting closer to a few more people, you will start thinking the way they think. you will start behaving the way they behave. So very important that we get into these right relationships for us to become a better version of ourselves. And lastly, something which I could think of is in terms of our communication skills. All of us in our professional domains, we all aspire to really reach where we want to. Yeah. So I started off with this song, this beautiful song, Chand Tare Tod Mein Laun, Sahari Duniya Par Main Chaun. We all really want to achieve something in life. I came across this wonderful quote in one of the books which says, we all get hired for our technical skills. We all get hired for our technical skills, but we all get promoted because of dash, dash, dash. You know that. You could be filling it up with so many different words, but yes, I could just be labeling them as soft skills. But one thing which comes to my mind is the skill on communication. Why communication? Whether you're interacting with somebody in the physical. So let's come back to the first 2 points in terms of attitude and even relationships. The way you respond again has to do with your communication abilities. When I say communication, not just your ability to speak, but how do you express yourself in a situation? Developing relationships, again, it comes down to how are you able to interact with them? How are you able to communicate with them effectively? And talk about any professional interaction, we again talking about your ability to communicate. So when I talk about continuous improvement, now communication is a very, very vast subject. In fact, I run my signature program. So I do a lot of work for the corporates, and my signature program actually happens to be something known as leadership communication. So I run this. I run this for many organizations, and in fact, I run an open batch once every 6 months. In fact, my next batch starts on 12th of Feb. So very important. So when I talk about continuous improvement, I'm actually talking about 3 things: your attitude, your relationships, and your ability to communicate right. That really helps you in becoming a better you. I could have spoken about so many different aspects because everything adds up. But yes, these are the top 3 which came to my mind in terms of you becoming a better you. So this is what I told you. I mean, this is, I also run an open batch. More details are available on my website. Yeah, any of you interested can go to my website for that. So let me just summarize on what I spoke about. We're well in time. I told you about 35, 40 minutes. We're well in time. So let me just summarize on what I spoke to you about. I spoke about 3 aspects: becoming a better you, identifying your purpose. But you need to graduate from achievement to mastery to purpose. You may not be able to start from purpose the right way. So start off with achievement, then getting on to the mastery, then having a clear purpose on why you're doing something. A second thing I spoke to you was in terms of right habits, taking care of your body. Third thing I spoke to you in terms of how do you really improve in certain areas, continuous improvement. I gave you top 3 areas in terms of how do you really improve your attitude, how do you get better at relationships, and thirdly, one soft skill which I could really talk about for the next 2 days is your communication skills. So what can be done to improve your communication skills? Very important. Will really take you a long distance, both in your personal relationships and in your professional endeavors. So 3 things which I want to share with you, and that's what I do. I mean, I do all these sessions. It's my life, it's now or never. That's what I've been doing in the last 4 years. I just want to live from all different I speak to all kinds of audience. That's been a practice. Thank you. So, Faisal, I had a very silent audience, so I'm done. I mean, I actually wanted to interact more. That's the reason I thought I would be able to pull it up to about 45
Mostly
minutes.
Our audience, they interact through chat box, but that's fine. So
thank you, Mayura.
So
2 people who've been responding to messages, thank you.
So before we move to the Q&A session, we will be initiating the poll. Request all participants to kindly share your feedback. While doing so, request all participants to kindly post their questions in the chat window. Once again, I thank all our participants for joining our session today. We have received a lot of inquiry about the e-certificate offered by HRAI. You can claim your certificate by sharing your details, name, and session attended in an email to the email ID provided in the chat window. Please ensure you do this by end of this month. We will email the e-certificates to you based on the details received. So, Mr. Vikas, we have received some questions from registrations. I'll just take it one by one. The first question that has come up from our participants is, how do I know that I need to better myself? How do I create a betterment plan for myself? And what all key areas I should choose for betterment?
Okay, I possibly give you an answer to what all areas you should be choosing. See, there could be 10 different areas, but so depending on the stage of life you're in, if you're a fresher, I would really ask you to spend more time on communication. If you're somebody who spent for 20, 25 years, I would really ask you to invest more time in relationships. So now, depending on which stage of life you're in, but if you really can take care of these 3 aspects in terms of your attitude, in terms of relationships, in terms of communication, believe me, you will really go a long way in terms of your physical, in terms of personal relationships and your physical and professional endeavors. So that's in terms of what you should be focusing upon. Now, how do you know which area you need to focus on? See, that's very important. All of us have close friends. और अगर मैं आपको बताऊं, आपके दोस्त को ना पता है कि आपको कहाँ ज्यादा टाइम इन्वेस्ट करने की जरूरत है. हमें खुद भी पता होता है. Most of us know it by ourselves. But if we are afraid to answer ourselves, just ask that question to 3 of your best friends. Believe me, they will give you the right answer as to which area you need to focus on.
Absolutely. Absolutely, Mr. Vikas. So the next question that is there is, how do I self-test to find the improvement areas for myself? How do I decide the roadmap?
Again, if you're wanting to find out the improvement areas for yourself, you will have to ask a couple of your friends. See, many times I may have a feeling that I'm possibly the best communicator in this world. मेरे जितना अच्छा तो कोई बोल ही नहीं सकता. ये मेरी फीलिंग हो सकती है. पर मैं अपने 3 दोस्तों से पूछता हूँ कि भाई ऑनेस्टली बताना. वो 2 लोग कहते हैं कि भाई तेरी बात सुन के ना नींद आ जाती है. तो पता चल गया ना मुझे कि भाई गलत फहमी थी मुझे कुछ. So again, so how do you really know the improvement areas? So please pick up your 3 best friends and believe me, they would be able to answer you. That's the easiest I can think of.
Is there any tool, Mr. Vikas, that we can measure our improvements, or it's just through practical?
See, again, so this is something which I use in my leadership communication workshop also. Today, you have a very interesting tool which is available. Let's focus on communication. This is a tool which all of you have for attending this session. You know, when I was in college, we didn't have a smartphone. I still remember we relied on a tape recorder. Most of you would not know what a tape recorder is, but let me talk about the current generation only. So now, what kind of a tool can you use to assess whether you've improved or not? So let's talk about something as plain as communication. Can you actually record your audio, record your video, and practice, let's say, every week? Now, I'm not saying record a video every single day of your life, but can you start recording a video, one short video, 1 or 2 minute video every weekend? And then see the quality of your videos after about 3 months. See the first video which you recorded. After 4 weeks, has there been some improvement? Now, if you keep watching your videos, you will know the areas that you need to improve upon. and you will really get better. Believe me, this is the best tool that you can have in terms of improving your communication skills. Now, let me give you another example. So how do you really know whether you've improved in your relationships? चलो इसका कुछ मैं आंसर देने से पहले एक पूछता हूँ आपसे, आपको कैसे पता चलेगा कि आपकी relationships improve हुई कि नहीं? So whether you want to take a shot?
Means I'm not being into a relationship. You're talking about overall or
Any professional relationship or
okay.
so how would you know that you've really developed some good relationships? How would you know that?
It depends when you speak to the person, you come to know, because sometimes the person comes to you, next time he comes to you, means every time whenever there is any issue, there is any query or something, he comes to you. So you come, that reputation gets built up. If he doesn't comes next time, you know that yeah, he is not happy with your uh, whatever communication or whatever thing.
Perfect. So you've given the answer. So if the person is ready to come to you for something other than the regular work, if he's really in talking terms to you, not because of your position. Yeah, many of your subordinates may just want to talk to you because of your position, not that way. So if somebody is willing to talk to you other than the professional work, I mean, you possibly get into the next stage of getting into a good relationship with that person. Or if somebody can really share something personal in terms of something which is troubling him or her, then you know you really are getting to the next stage of developing a good relationship. So instead of really having a tool per se, just think one day, just think, reflect upon the people that you know of, and how many of those can really rely on you in terms of discussing something other than your normal work. And you would know whether you're doing something good in terms of developing those relationships. And if you're not, you really need to be spending more time with them outside the professional work. And that's how you develop relationships.
Thank you, Mr. Vikas, for such a beautiful answer. So there's one more question, that is, what stops us from adapting change? In other words, why humans have a tendency to resist change?
देखो, अब ये भगवान ने शरीर हमारा ऐसा बनाया, मैं इसमें कुछ नहीं कर सकता. आपने फिजिक्स सबने पढ़ी है, 10th तक तो सबने पढ़ी होगी. वो कुछ लॉ होता है, the body tends to stay at rest unless, yeah, I am not getting the right words, but if you Google it, you would be able to come across, yeah. So unless pushed or unless set into motion, our body will remain at rest. Now that's the way God designed us. हम अगर सबके बस में हो तो हम कुछ नहीं करना चाहेंगे. तो अगर भगवान ने ऐसा बनाया तो उसको, इस इनर्शिया को ओवरकम करने के लिए कुछ तो करना पड़ेगा. So I don't know if I've given you a right straight answer, but that's how we are.
Thank you, Mr. Vikas. Hope the participant has got the answer to his question. We'll take the last question that has come up is, how do I work on my mental blocks, harsh judgments, and strong biases while I am on the journey of finding a better version of myself?
Sorry, sir, that was a beautiful question. I mean,
Yeah. How do I work on my mental blocks, harsh judgments, and strong biases while I am on the journey of finding a better version of myself?
So how do you work on your mental blocks? So again, this is something to do with your attitude. And how do you work on your mental block? You find some new association. So we didn't have adequate time today, but yeah, when I spoke about attitude, I spoke about how do you improve that? You improve your association. Either you do away with your existing friends, or if you feel you have a great set of friends, perfect. Who else can I follow so that I become like the person that he is? So if you're really facing this problem of your biases or in terms of your mental blocks, then I believe you really need to have some better company, some better association around you. हम वैसे ही सोचते हैं जिस तरह से हमारे आसपास के दोस्त सोचते हैं. तो कुछ और नए दोस्त चाहिए आपको.
Thank you, Mr. Vikas, for this insightful and intriguing session. It has been a pleasure being with you today. I'm sure our participants had a lot to learn and take away from this session. Before we conclude with today's session, we would also want to thank our event partners, Geisha, NASCOM COE, LinkedIn Local, Talgro, TLE, and WICCI for supporting these HRAI events. To know more about them, request you to kindly visit the links provided in the chat window. Thank you once again, dear speaker and our participants, for joining us today. Do join us for our next masterclass by Lieutenant Commander Nitika Rai, Senior Technology Consultant, Ernest Young, on the topic Life Skill, tomorrow on 24th of January 2023. That's it from our today's webinar. See you soon. Stay safe, take care, and bye for now. Thank you, Mr.
Thank you. Thank you. See you.
Bye.